college podcasts. But today, I'm going to explain why I think UConn joining the ACC wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone out there. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. This is AJ Black, editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 network. Today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Pathfinder, or Armada and go find your next big adventure now. Check them out today at nissanusa.com. So as I said, we're a BC podcast. BC and UConn, we don't get along very well. That's very clear, right? And I think there's a lot of Boston College fans out there that have no sympathy for where UConn is in college football. But I saw an interesting article out on the interwebs today by Matt Fortuna, who I believe used to be part of The Athletic and part of ESPN at one point too, who had a tweet, and I read part of his article before it was paywalled, and I'm not going to judge him for paywalling. I have my paywall stuff too. But it just said basically enough is enough. The ACC needs to take UConn in. And the basic premise at the beginning of the article is that UConn basketball, who is the favorites to win the national title a second year now in a row, would be a asset that the ACC could bring in to improve their portfolio. Now, I get that point because you bringing in a powerhouse like that for basketball, along with Duke and UNC, and even like a Louisville or some of these other programs that have been playing well recently. And all of a sudden, you have one of the best basketball conferences in the country. The bigger question would be, though, basketball's nice, and basketball does bring in money. That's absolutely true. But what's the driving force behind all of this college sports realignment? It ain't basketball; it's football. UConn football's awful. And yes, I know BC football only barely beat them last year, and they lost the year before. That says more about Jeff Hafley and the state of the BC football program than it does against UConn. But I think the ACC needs to be proactive here, and I agree with Matt here. Look, I would love to leave UConn off in the world of independence, so their fans can just stay over there and gripe about BC for the rest of eternity. That would be fine with me. However, that aside, the ACC is in trouble. We have Florida State potentially suing the ACC. We have Clemson suing the ACC, or in the process of having a lawsuit. Whatever the legal terminology is going around with those two schools. They're both looking for ways to get out. It's only a matter of time before other programs do. UNC's chancellor said something that basically made it sound like they may explore it. The ACC needs to be proactive and start to do things to really beef up what they do. Basketball can help, and UConn would help in both women's and men's. And women's basketball, I saw something today that the tournament, their ratings have gone up 75%. This is a sport on the rise, and anyone who knows UConn women's basketball knows it's a good product. UConn men's basketball is one of the best in the country of the last 2 years. They're the best in the country the last 2 years. Not one of the best. They are the best. Yeah, their football's terrible. Yes, I don't want BC to have to recruit against them on equal settings. That's going to be bad for Boston College. I mean, I think Bill O'Brien will be able to fix that, but right now I would worry, given where Hafley had things. But you look at let's pretend that Florida State and Clemson leave, and you want to add to this conference. Who are you going to add? The names that have popped around are not the most promising. So I've heard schools like Tulane and Rice and South Florida, ECU. None of those teams do anything great in much of anything. If you brought in UConn, you would have a national title contender in basketball and women's basketball, and pretty good in baseball too. That would be great for the conference. This would be a healthy pick for them. And just from a selfish BC perspective, you then have a team that you hate in your conference. Like one of the things that you hear all the time about Boston College in the ACC is there's no like natural rivalries. You have Syracuse, that's good, right? You have Pitt, meh. You have Miami, meh. You bring in UConn, that gives you the hated rival that you've lacked in the ACC. BC fans hate UConn. They do. It goes back, to conference realignment, BC blocking them. UConn fans, for the same reason, hate BC. That would give some juice to this conference. It gives BC their first like real natural rivalry, something that like fans will just be angry about. And if UConn can get their football team back up a little bit, it'll make those games even more fun. And that's what BC lacks. Like, you want those like hated rivalry games. Like, you see the Alabamas and the Auburns, and you're never going to get that. But even like the lesser extent, like West Virginia and Pitt and Louisville and Kentucky, things like that. BC needs that in the ACC. UConn could bring that. I think there's something to be said there, and that would give you, I think you would make them one of your natural rivals. I forget who they have right now. Was it Pitt, Syracuse, and I don't know if there's a third team or not. I can't remember right now. But whatever the case, UConn should be that team, that third team, and let it roll. Let it roll. Let UConn be that team every year you play. It's regional. It's personal. It'd get nasty. I think that'd be fun. So, look, I'm going to probably get a lot of flack from BC fans for saying this, because I think a lot of you folks out there would just rather see them do nothing. But given the worlds of what's going on, bringing UConn to the ACC would be a good move. And as much as UConn wants to say the Big East is going to save them, they're not. The television deal difference in money, I am sure, is much bigger for the ACC than the Big East. Football and basketball is completely different, and they make nothing in football because I don't even know who covers their games, but getting them into the ESPN stable would make them much more money. UConn would take it in a second. BC in the ACC, I think they should do it. I think it would make a really strong basketball conference. It would increase the Northeast. There's a lot here. This is what I'm thinking. I don't know what you guys thought. I have a poll up in the comment section. You guys can all tell me I'm an idiot, but that's my thoughts on this. In a moment, we're going to switch over to football. BC held more practices this week, and a New England Patriots legend was on hand. I'll talk about what I've heard and what we know about this visitor in just a moment. This week's March Madness Bracket Highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest. Just like any and all of the 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. The NC State Wolfpacker, obviously this week's Nissan Rogue. A team absolutely surprises with a powerful performance in their first two games of the tournament. And with DJ Burns doing everything out there to keep your attention, he'll do it just like the Rogue. Wins over Texas Tech and Oakland have seen them set up to play Marquette in the Sweet 16. All you ACC fans are out there probably pulling for the Wolfpack. They say win life, go Rogue, and that's exactly what the Wolfpack have done here. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure at shop@nissanusa.com. Bracket already busted. Mine is dead. I picked UConn, and oh my God, it's like a UConn episode, right? But Are you tired of the same old daily fantasy grind where you make a roster, cross your fingers, and hope for the best? Or losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry? Introducing Bettor Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner, or boost your odds and climb the leaderboard together. So grab a friend and join the social DFS movement. I am on a couple chains with my friends. We talk sports, daily grind, daily fantasy all the time. Over unders, the more or less. We do that all the time, and we've never done it together until we did it on Bettor Together. Now you can do that too. You can find me on there if you want to join up. It's AJ Black 247. You can find me on Bettor Together, and you can ask me if you want to join on a bet. I would love to join you. So, be Eagles fans. You should show you're the best players by participating in the Fan Challenge series for a chance to win real money prizes. Download Bettor Together now from the App Store and sign up using promo code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember the code Locked On because winning alone is fun, but winning better is together. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black, and I just talked about UConn for 10 minutes. I don't want to talk about UConn anymore. I'm done talking about the Huskies. Let's get back to the Eagles, who held their final scrimmage before Easter break on Wednesday in the Fish Fieldhouse. And on hand was a Patriots legend, Ernie Adams. If you are familiar with the Patriots, you know he's been critical with their wins in 6 Super Bowls. The funny thing about Ernie Adams is if you look up what he's done, it's a mystery. He's a researcher. He is an analyst. He's done a lot of things behind the scenes. And a lot of people think of him as sort of the brains for Bill Belichick for some of the things that were going on. He was critical in the Deflategate. He was there as part of that. That's where his name came up. But now he's there visiting Bill O'Brien at BC. And if you follow BC Bob too on Twitter, you know that BC Bob is a BC fan or BC person who knows stuff. And here's what he tweeted out about Ernie Adams. He said, "Hi there, some news. Former Patriots guru Ernie Adams is at practice today. Has been to a few. Spoke with Bill O'Brien and Bergerian most of practice. Heard he will be an advisor to the head coach. Not full-time, but he's at BC in some capacity." That's big. Now, do I expect Ernie Adams to have the role that Rob Chudzinski had for Jeff Hafley for a couple of years? No. The man is in his 70s. He's old. Will he come by practice and give some thoughts here and there? Sure. Is that good? Absolutely. I don't care if he's there once a month. Having Ernie Adams, I'm a Pats fan. You guys know that, right? Having him there to talk about anything he notices is a huge upgrade. Think of what you had at Boston College for the last 2 coaching regimes. You had Steve Adazio, who I believe had no idea what statistics were and probably didn't do a whole lot of research because he was all about, we're going to pound this rock and do the blah, blah, blah. He's a gym teacher. He didn't care about that. So stats went right out the window. Researching, probably not much of it. You bring in Jeff Hafley, who is learning everything. And I'm sure he probably had a lot of advisors teaching him stuff, but he needed it because he didn't know a lot of stuff. Now you have an experienced head coach, a winner in the NFL, a winner in college football, who has a guy that knows him and a guy who was part of the brains behind the Patriots dynasty. And if he's just there for practices here and there, that is awesome. I'm not expecting a ton out of Ernie Adams. And I'm not expecting him to be a huge role on this staff. But the fact that he's floating around the program is cool. It's a good thing. And it feels like BC is starting to turn that corner again. We said this when they hired Bergerian. Like, you are getting like legitimate names in this program again. You don't expect that with Boston College. And Ernie Adams is there. Now, BC Bob, I talk about him a lot because he nailed a lot of the Bill O'Brien stuff. And I don't know who he is, but he's a burner account on Twitter. And he tweeted out again. He said, "This was the other staffer that I talked about when Bill O'Brien got the job." Talk about Ernie Adams. Some thought it was Tom Brady. It was absolutely not going to be Tom Brady. It was Ernie, but it was sworn to secrecy. Dante Scarnecchia has also been at practice and is an advisor as well. I haven't been able to confirm that. I'm not going to say that I know, but if Dante Scarnecchia is at practice working with that offensive line, oh my gosh. You went from Googs, who they had to fire to bring Scarnecchia back, to having Scarnecchia helping with a pretty good offensive lineman in coach and Matt Applebaum. I don't know if BC Bob is right with that one, but if he's there too, whew, we got something cooking in Boston College. I see all the fans out there tweeting, "We're back." Oh baby, if that's the case, there's a lot of reason to get excited. This is not BC does not feel like small potatoes anymore. They feel like they're getting the support that they finally need, and that is cool. So that kind of wraps up our football talk. I wanted to bring up the Ernie Adams stuff. I thought it was a cool little segment to bring up. But the fact that they have like Will Blackman on staff, he's working on recruiting. You have Chris Snee, you have Nerj Bajarian, you have all these coaches that have 3 former NFL coaches with Rob Chzinski, Bill O'Brien, and there's a third one, and I'm totally blanking on who it is on the staff. That's cool, and that's going to help you sell to recruits too. Recruits are going to notice this stuff, folks. The recruits see this. This is a big deal. And before I get into my last segment, speaking of recruiting, a lot of you guys out there are BC fans. Maybe you're on Twitter. You see me, I cover recruiting for 247. That's my gig, part of my gig. I cover football, I cover recruiting. And I will retweet what recruits say. And you guys all see, this is just a little small little nugget here. Some of them put up like, got an offer from University of Boston College, or got an offer from Boston College University. I have a request for you guys. I know it's annoying when they do that. Don't tweet at the kids. It doesn't make Boston College look good at all. When you have a kid get an offer from NC State, you go through their. First of all, you guys shouldn't be tweeting at recruits anyways. Just like their stuff and read about it. But you see a kid get an offer from NC State, you look at their mentions, and it's all just gifs of the wolf and touchdowns and all like positive stuff. When a BC kid does that and he puts the University of Boston College, and he only does it because he probably has a template that he's just copying and pasting for every offer he gets. It's not like he doesn't know. But it makes BC look kind of like condescending, snooty, and jerky. It doesn't look like you guys support them at all. It's the folks that are as someone who covers this, stop tweeting that at kids. Like, it's funny and like DM your friends about it, but don't tweet at the kids about it. Don't say, "Oh, it's not the university." What are you that? I've seen it. Don't do it. Leave the kids alone. But we're gonna have more recruiting news because there's more coming up. We'll have that on tomorrow's show, and I'll have you some updates that you're gonna want to know about. I'm gonna wrap things up with a little talk about basketball. The transfer portal is heating up, but it doesn't seem to be for Boston College, as the Eagles have not had a player enter the portal. I want to look at the roster and kind of grade out who could be leaving, who might not be leaving, and we'll talk about the risks and potential defections that we could be seeing coming up soon. all of us at Locked On, including Locked On Boston College. You can check it out there as well, including most of the pro leagues and college conferences as well. Keep up to date on everything, including March Madness, NBA, Major League Baseball, and more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. And if you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/lockedonfiretv. This is Locked On Boston College. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. We're wrapping things up. We're talking the transfer portal. And if you are on Twitter or follow any sports website right now, you know that basketball transfer portal is insane. Travis Branham of 247 sites I work for posted that the numbers of kids entering the transfer portal this year is even higher than last year, where it was really high. So it's a lot. Now, the craziest part of all this is that Boston College is still at 0. They have not had a single player, as the time of this recording, it's at 9:30 on Wednesday night. They have not had a single player into the transfer portal. I don't expect that to hold. BC season ended on Sunday night. They probably got back on Monday. They probably had, exit interviews. Earl Grant will probably interview and talk to each of his kids either today or yesterday. I think that was probably the case. So my guess is we'll probably start hearing names either tomorrow or Friday. So this last segment, I want to go through some of the key players and talk about whether I think there's a risk that they're going to enter the transfer portal and what the odds are that they come back. The first name I want to talk about is Jaden Zachary. There's been a lot of buzz about him potentially leaving. I think there's a good chance that he enters the transfer portal. He's from Wisconsin. I could imagine seeing him play at, Wisconsin, where he has a chance at the NCAA tournament, which he probably won't at BC next year. Be closer to home. He may not even get a bigger role there, but I don't think that matters. I think he wants a chance, probably, I would think at this point, to get to the tournament and play for a bigger program. So I think the odds are pretty high for him. The other name that I want to bring up, let's look at DJ Hand. DJ Hand came back from a knee injury that he sustained during his freshman year. He played this year, but he was inconsistent throughout the year. And, he seemed like he was trying a lot. And part of that is because he could have been still pushing through the rehab of his knee. I mean, clearly when you have a catastrophic knee injury, it's going to take you a while to come back. But could he enter the portal? He's a former 4-star guard. And I'm not sure what his role is going to be with the team next year. I'm going to put him at a medium. I think it's a potential that he could enter the portal. Will he do it? I'm not sure. So he's a moderate chance, I think. Then there's Mason Madsen. Madsen transferred in last year from Cincinnati. He had a terrible first year, and we find out after that it was because he had a pretty significant health injury, a health scare that got treated, and then he came back last year and this year and looked much more like the type of player that we were expecting. I've heard buzz that he could be a guy entering the portal. His brother, I think, plays for Utah, and there's a good chance I think he could enter the portal. I'd love to see him back for one more year, but I think there's a chance he enters. Chaz Kelly is another name to watch for. Chaz Kelly is a sophomore. He missed the end of the year due to, I think it was appendicitis. He had a health injury and surgery, so he missed the end of the year. Beacon Street Ball loves him. Thinks he's the future of this team. A lot of fans are not the biggest fans, and it's all going to depend on what Earl Grant thinks. Does Earl Grant think he's going to continue to evolve into your ball handling guard? If he does, I think that Grant will do whatever he can to keep him here. If he's still worried that things are not going to change, he could enter the portal. I'm going to put him at a medium. And you're seeing here, a lot of these guys, I think there's a good chance that some of them enter. I don't think there's any that I have a few that I think are locks to stay, but I'll explain those in a minute. Next, here's my first low one, Devin McLaughlin. Devin McLaughlin came to BC as someone that was a complete afterthought in the recruiting world. Earl Grant gave him the chance to play here, and he's played for 2 seasons now and has improved tremendously. I imagine that Earl Grant thinks the world of him, and I bet you Devin McLaughlin thinks the world of Grant for taking that risk with him. I'm going to put him down as a low risk. I think he's going to stay. I don't expect him to go anywhere, and I think he'll be an integral part of this offense. In terms of other players, I would put it low. I think Jaden Hastings is low. He didn't play at all this year. He's not going anywhere. Armani Mighty, I don't expect him to leave. Fred Payne, same thing. And I think that's everybody. I think I got everyone because Quentin Post is gone. So you're going to have a chance that there's going to be 3 or 4 guys. And the way that BC has been active already in the portal, you've seen them linked to guards, bigs. They know stuff is going to happen. We're just waiting to hear who that's going to be. Who do you think is going to leave? Leave it in the comments. We'll be back again tomorrow, maybe with some transfer portal talk. We'll definitely get into some BC football recruiting and anything else that breaks during the day. It's going to be a busy day here at Locked On BC. Thank you all. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Check me out at Eagle Insider. I think you'll like my work there. We've got Mitch Wolf and BC Beacon Street Ball, BC Hockey Blogger. We've got a ton of stuff there. Come over and check that all out. Thank you all for following along, and thank you for making us your daily listen. And this is Locked On Boston College, your team every day.